I see way too many people have really amazing courses and ideas, and they're launching these things, and it seems to work in the beginning because it's really easy in the beginning to launch something new because you're launching to an audience that understands you and knows you. But as soon as they start selling to people that don't know them, their sales just goes to nothing and they stop selling, and it's kind of frustrating, right? I see so many people with good offers, good courses, not being able to make sales after that initial launch. Like the launch is hot, but then afterwards they can't make any money and it kind of sucks. And then what happens is people get in this cycle where they constantly have to launch something new to their audience so they can keep making money. Today, I'm going to show you how to pass what I would call the cold audience test, where you're able to actually launch your product and your program to a cold audience. In case you don't know what a cold audience is an audience that doesn't know you yet. And so the question is, how do we do this? Well, it really comes down to the marketplace's perception of you and not the actual quality of the course. So if you have a course or online program, digital product, whatever you're selling, and it's not working, then it's not because of the quality of the thing you're selling, it's because of the perception of the marketplace. Essentially, what people think of you and how your stuff looks and feels to them will determine whether it will sell or not sell to the marketplace as a whole. Because what happens is a lot of times people have an idea for a course or a program, but when they go to launch it and they sell it, it sounds like every other course in the marketplace that is similar. For example, take something like keto. Keto is something that was really, really hot for a while. And when it came out and became hot, there was a lot of courses that were created around keto. However, the people in the beginning, like they may not have even known that much about keto and their stuff may not have been that good, but because they were the first in the marketplace to talk about keto, it was something new, it was something fresh. Their stuff sold in the marketplace and it sold really well because it was something new and fresh. However, the people that came later, they may have made much better courses, but because they weren't fresh in the marketplace and because they were using the same kind of marketing language that everybody else in the keto world was using, then their stuff didn't sell as much. And it was much harder to get the sale because it was the same thing. Essentially, the lesson is this: if your stuff looks and feels the same as what other people in the marketplace are selling, then it's most likely not going to sell because people are like, oh, I've heard this before. Because we glaze over, because when people are used to hearing a message, they glaze over the message and the message stops having its meaning and its value and its freshness. It's kind of like what I would call the Me Too offer problem that a lot of people run into, is where their stuff looks the same as everybody else's. So what's the answer? Well, the answer is when you learn how to position your thing as being different and being new and fresh, then you can take any course that may not be selling well at all, but because you're positioning it differently with new language that is exciting and fresh, then you can turn an unprofitable course into a very profitable one quite quickly. This principle is, by the way, is the same principle that Jesus used when he started to grow his earthly ministry. And you're like, really? Jesus used marketing for his ministry? Well, he did it authentically and without really trying. It was just the natural thing of what he was learning and who he was as a person and as God at the same time. He had a message, and his message was that the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Which the kingdom of heaven is at hand, that's a fresh message. It's something that the marketplace, the Jews, Judaism, the place where he was presenting what he was offering, when he came into that marketplace, like nobody else was talking about that. So it was something fresh and new. And because it was fresh and new, people were intrigued. It was different. People were like, oh, really? This is interesting. I want to know more. And that's why people would spend days to follow him and just to learn from him. And then he would teach them, he'd demonstrate this kingdom, this thing that was telling people to be true. He would demonstrate it to be true through miracles, signs, wonders, all the stuff that he was doing. And then he would teach the people on top of that through stories and all these different things. But essentially this positioning as something different and new and fresh is what really caused Jesus' ministry to rise to the top, the creme de la creme, like the top of the top. And so that's what happened in the marketplace. And it worked. In the same way, you want to do the same thing because you want to make your position powerful so it's set apart, so it's different, and so that people will pay attention to what you have to offer instead of kind of get the glazed over eyes that they get when you're just selling the same thing as everybody else is selling in the same language that everybody else is using. So the way we want to do this is we want to use a framework that I call the PCS framework. And the PCS stands for Problem, Culprit, Solution Framework. And I'm going to show you how to do this. And by the way, I came up with this when I was studying marketing. And I came across this marketing story about this guy who was brought on to sell Pepsodent toothpaste. And Pepsodent toothpaste is a toothpaste in the 1920s that became the best-selling toothpaste for 20 years because of this guy's marketing knowledge. And he used problem, culprit, solution. He didn't know it was problem, culprit, solution. He probably had his own way of looking at it, his own way to make it as a framework. But I looked at this and I found out what he was doing and I saw how it worked. And I also then, when I started understanding this framework and how it worked, which we're going to go into a little bit, I'm going to show you how, I'm going to break it down, show you exactly how to apply it for your business so you can start making a profit to a cold audience. And I started looking at all the other brands and offers out there, and I started recognizing that every single profitable brand was doing very similar things. They were all using the problem, culprit, solution framework without really knowing they were doing it. So I just made it into a framework so we can follow it and follow along, and you can use it in your own businesses and so on and so forth. Again, this is a framework that was in Jesus's ministry that, again, he didn't know he was doing it. He was just following what he was learning from the Father as a man that was in relationship with the Father. And so as he was doing that, though, like, he followed this framework because it works. And so we're going to break down this framework, exactly how it works and how you can set it up for yourself so you can build a profitable offer in a course or whatever the thing is that you're selling and make it profitable to a cold audience so that your ads are working and all those things work well. So let's break it down. Are you cool with that? So this is essentially, by the way, this is the model right here. It's a problem, culprit, solution. I'm going to break down each one of these and how they work and why I basically, like, this is an example of the Pepsodent toothpaste, and we're going to break down how this comes into being. So number one is the problem. We want to look at the problem. You can't create a good offer without fully understanding that. The problem is, and this is the thing that I found working with a lot of people who have online courses or coaching programs or whatever the thing is they're selling, and this is the problem that a lot of them have, is they don't really know the actual problem they're solving. They just kind of have a good idea that they're presenting because they want to do it, but then it's not really solving a real problem. So people are like, oh, I don't know if I need to do this because it's not really, doesn't seem like it's beneficial to me because it's not solving a real problem that I have in my life. And that's an issue because if you're not solving a real problem, you're only trying to sell a good idea, it's not going to sell. It's going to be really, really, really hard to sell. But the more clear you get on that problem that people are actually facing, the easier it is to connect with that and then present what you're offering as a solution to that thing. That make sense? Again, good ideas don't sell. So we want to avoid the good idea. Here's some examples of a good idea versus actual problems. Let's take the weight loss example. A real problem in the weight loss industry, and this is a very specific problem, but you want to get specific. A real problem in weight loss is people who had babies and they gained weight after the baby and they can't really get it off. And so that's a real problem that a lot of moms face, new moms face. They gain weight through pregnancy. Then they have this extra baby weight afterwards that have a hard time losing. Like, how many moms out there can relate to that, right? They can all relate to that because it's a very clear and real problem that they're facing. Now, a good idea, so that's a problem. But a good idea in the weight loss industry is like, hey, I just want to help you lose some weight. It's a good idea, but it's not clear. It's not identifying a clear problem. It's more based on a good idea and a desire that they have. Like, yeah, I want to lose some weight, but everybody wants to lose some weight. But it doesn't connect with a real problem. So don't just talk about what they want and their desires and the good idea behind it. You want to talk about the actual true core problem that your audience is having. So go look at your audience, find what is that one true problem. Another example, if it's in like the mental health / happiness stage of life, is where a problem could be a real problem. This is a real problem. I have a hard time sleeping at night because I always go to bed anxious because I deal with this anxiety. I have a hard time sleeping. That's a real problem that people face, right? Now, a good idea in this marketplace that, again, good ideas don't sell, But a good idea is like become a more mentally strong person. That doesn't really mean anything. Mentally strong person, yeah, it's a good idea, it's a concept, but it doesn't carry any weight because it's not connected to a true problem. It doesn't call out a true problem. And so it's really hard to sell that compared to, hey, if you're struggling with anxiety and hard time sleeping, here, I want to help you solve that. Oh, that connects better because it's a real problem in real life that people are facing. So you must get clear on the real problem. That one, and it should be like one to three very clear problems that people are ultimately facing that you're going to help them solve. Because the more that you can position your product as a solution to a problem, the easier it is to sell. So yes, again, what a lot of people fall into, the trap that they fall into, is they recognize all of these different problems, and it's a whole list of them. Like, oh, I can help people with this, I can help people with this, I can help people with that. For example, for me, like, I'm good with all kinds of marketing because I've been in the game for a while. So I can help people with email, I can help people build webinars, I can help people create ads. Like, there's so many different problems that I can solve and different things I can help people do, but I need to hone into that one thing that's a core problem that I truly, truly solve. And for Pepsodent, again, we look at this. What was their core problem? They identified three, actually. One was yellow teeth. They recognized that if people don't brush their teeth, they're going to have yellow teeth. Two is they're going to have gum disease. People that struggle with gum disease, again, that happens when you don't brush your teeth. And three is that their teeth will actually rot if they don't brush their teeth consistently. So that's a very real problem that people are having in the industry. And so you want to find what are those real problems that you can call out and say, hey, we're going to help you solve this. Find those real problems. Take time to find it. So that's the first thing, is the problem. We must know the actual real problem that we're solving, and it's not just a good idea, but a real problem. Number two is the culprit. We must understand the culprit that we're positioning ourselves against, and that's what the culprit is. It's a thing that is causing the real problem, or that people think they need to do to get rid of the problem that they don't really need to do. But we need to identify what are we positioning our solution and our offer against that's a culprit that we can position against. And there's essentially two different ways to identify a culprit. The first way is the old path method. And the old path method is this idea that there's a specific path that people think they must take to solve their problem. They're like, oh, but I think I need to do this, but I think I need to do that. Or it's a path that has been taught out in the marketplace that everybody else is saying, hey, if you want to lose weight, you got to do intermittent fasting, whatever the thing is, right? So that's a path. But if you don't agree with that path and you think there's a better way, then you want to call that out because you're calling out the old path, the old way of doing something that you don't agree with and that people think they must do. That's the first way, is the old path method. The second thing is what I would call the current thing that they're currently doing that's not serving them. That's just empowering the problems that they have. And so this is the actual thing that they're experiencing or thing that they're doing in their life right now that's actually causing the problems. And we want to identify that thing and call it out. So those are two different ways to come up with a culprit. Now let's look at examples of this so you understand what I'm trying to say. Again, the old path for weight loss, it could be the culprit you could point out are fad diets. Right? Because that's a path that everybody is saying, hey, you got to do keto. No, wait a second. You got to do this diet instead. No, the carnivore diet, right? No, you got to do this diet instead. No, you got to do intermittent fasting, right? And so a good culprit to call out is the fad diets. And then you can say, the reason people sell fad diets is just to try to take your money, right? And that's a culprit you call out. If you call that out, then people are like, yeah, you're right. They connect with that culprit. And it's just causing you to actually keep gaining weight, and it doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because a fad diet, you'll lose weight initially, but it's not sustainable. It's not something that will last. So what happens is it causes a yo-yo diet where they'll lose the weight because it's a fad and they're doing it and because it's different in their body. So their body reacts by losing weight, but then it instantly, at the moment they stop doing that fad diet, it all comes back, and sometimes more of it comes back. So we want to help you keep away from that because that's what fad diets do. Because you want to point out the culprit and the effect of the culprit, right? So that's a culprit in the weight loss industry that could work really well if you do it well, if you present it well, if you call out this old way, this old method of doing things. If we want to call out a culprit in the mental health, we could point out the culprit of what I would call unrooted declarations. What do I mean by unrooted declarations? Unrooted declarations is where you speak something positive over yourself, but at the core you don't believe it. Because it's not rooted within your core, then your body's just going to feel like it's lying to itself, so it won't actually make a difference. Again, if I call it out and explain it, and then I invite people to a better solution, which we're going to get into, then it's instantly like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, this new solution sounds a lot better, right? So that's what you want to do in your marketplace. You want to identify what can you call out, what old path that people think they must do and that they're taught to do that you don't fully agree with, can you call out in the marketplace? Think about those things. The other idea is the current thing that they're doing that we can call out in the marketplace. And let's look at the examples of that current thing. This is a different way to come up with culprit. One way is the old path, where it's a specific way of doing things that you don't agree with or that's not working. And the other way is a current thing that they're experiencing or is happening to them or they can recognize in themselves that is causing their problem. So weight loss, for instance, the culprit for a current thing would be to point out the mindset on food. Is your relationship with food keeping you addicted to food to where you can't seem to get the weight off? Because this is what happens when you have a bad relationship with food. You're no matter what diets you do, no matter what you do, you're always going to keep gaining that weight back because your relationship with food is off. So when you solve that relationship with food, then you're going to be able to actually lose the weight and keep it off. How much better would that be? See, that's a message, that's a pitch that works because we're calling out a culprit about their relationship with food being the culprit that is causing all their problems. And it's not solving the real problem and not helping them sustain their weight because everybody relates to the idea of doing a fad diet or being on a diet, losing some weight, and then gaining it back again. If you address that pain and that problem head on and use a culprit of like their relationship with food, it could work really, really well. That makes sense? So that's a current thing they're experiencing, their relationship with food, right? Again, a mental health idea. The culprit could be simply to point out the mindless scroll. Again, we all have that problem where we feel anxious and stressed out and all these different things that we're feeling, real problems where we can't go to bed, we can't fall asleep because we're anxious. And so what happens is we go to this mindless scroll. Did you know that the mindless scroll is what it does? It activates this thing in your brain and your mind that releases dopamine. And so you constantly get these constant little dopamine hits. And so when you don't have those dopamine hits constantly going on every 10 seconds or whatever, then your mind doesn't know how to compute because you're training it to be addicted to this dopamine. And so as soon as you don't have it, you get anxious. And so what we want to do is we want to get rid of the mindless scroll. So that's the thing that they're currently doing, currently experiencing, that's causing all their problems, right? Again, those two ways to do the culprit. The old path, which is a method they've been trying to do that people are telling them they need to do, or things they think they should do that they just don't need to do. Call those out. That's a current old path, an old way of doing it. Or it could be something current that they're experiencing and doing, and it's not working for them. It's causing all their problems. So there's two ways to call out a culprit. Your key is to find one core culprit that you want to call out in your marketplace that's going to be the thing that people are really going to connect with. So again, Pepsodent, what did they do? They dug into this and they recognized, and it took a while for them to do this, by the way, but they recognized that the culprit, like when you don't brush your teeth and everything you eat and the stuff that you drink, it actually builds up on your teeth and it causes this film on your teeth. So they came up with the idea of the film, of calling out the film on people's teeth. And so in their ads, they would say, when you run your tongue over your teeth, you'll feel this film. And so people would naturally do that because they're like, if you hear that, you got to run your tongue over your teeth. And if you don't have your teeth brushed, then guess what? You're actually going to feel that film. And so it instantly called out a culprit that people were currently experiencing. It was an old path. This was a current thing they were experiencing. Make sense? So they called out that culprit. And that's the culprit that basically made them the best-selling toothpaste for 20 years straight. And again, this is something that Jesus did as well. I bring it back to this because he is the perfect marketer. Like, he's really good at what he did. Like, his ministry expanded like crazy because he knew how to show up to people and how to demonstrate the kingdom, how to bring language and messaging and meet the people where they were at. So what was the thing he called out? the way of the Pharisees, right? He constantly said, don't be like the Pharisees who do this. And he did that because he was calling out a culprit in the marketplace, an old way of doing things that doesn't work. And then he invited people to a new thing, which is to engage with the kingdom of heaven. That was his message, but it worked because there was a clear problem, a clear culprit that he was overcoming and positioning himself against. And you want to do the same thing. And if you do this right, then it's very easy to get people interested in what you're selling. Because if you call out the right culprit, people are like, they'll instantly relate with it and be like, oh, wow, I've been thinking wrong about that. That's so true. Oh, I need to know more about this. That's what happens, which will help you pass that cold audience test where you can run ads and a cold audience will grab hold of what you're doing and they'll want to buy the thing that you're selling. So that's the first two things: is problem, culprit. Now we want to go into solution. How do we come up and present our solution as a thing that will take care of the culprit and solve the problems? That's essentially what we're doing. And this will solidify everything that you're doing. And again, present what you're doing as something new, a new path, a new way of doing things. Again, here's the simple reality. If you present everything that you're doing, your solution, in the same way as everybody else in the marketplace, then nobody will pay attention because they're like, oh yeah, I've heard this before. Because their mind will glaze over. And you want to avoid the glaze by presenting what you're doing as a new opportunity, as something fresh and new, just by the simple way that you present it. It must be something that's different than what the whole marketplace is telling people. So if the marketplace is telling people you must do keto diet, then you want to come in and you want to show them how to actually build a lifestyle diet or whatever. Come up with fresh wording for it, because again, if it's the same thing that people have heard, then they're not going to pay attention. So that's why we get to use fresh language. Again, this is what Jesus did, is he used fresh language where it says the kingdom of heaven is at hand, which is a new idea that people had. And because it was a new idea, because it was fresh, people paid attention to it and they wanted to learn more about it. So the new language can make a difference. Here's some great positioning examples that I came across recently that I was like, wow, this was really good. This worked really well. One is this one was just a recent one. It's called the golden mic method. And the idea is this, and the problem that this guy was solving was the problem of getting in front of the right clientele that you want to sell on a high ticket basis. It was for people who were selling high ticket programs. So how do we get in front? And this is a big problem that people have, is getting in front of that high ticket audience. I have a good offer, but I can't get in front of the audience. So that's the problem. Clear problem. The culprit that he called out was a typical high ticket sales funnel that everybody else was using. So therefore nobody was paying attention. So that's the old method, the old path. He called out an old path. But his solution was this. Here's what you need to do. Create a podcast where you interview your ideal audience, your best clientele, people that you'd love to work with and have as your clients, where you interview them, and in that interview, you're going to build trust. And then at the end, you can offer them something of whatever service that you provide. So you're building trust through a podcast and you're getting content at the same time. But because you're interviewing the people that you want to work with, then at the end you have that trust. Then you can use that trust to say, hey, by the way, if you ever need help with XYZ, I'd love to help you. And they're like, yeah, I actually do, because you built that trust. So that's a great, brilliant kind of new idea, big idea, and positioning that sets him apart from everybody else, because everybody else is talking about this high ticket sales funnel and process that you got to do. And this is a completely new revolutionary idea. And because of that, it's selling really, really well. That makes sense? Problem, culprit, solution. That's what you want to do. Another example is, this is one that's been out for a really, really long time, but P90X. If you know about P90X, Beachbody, they created a workout program called P90X. And the way that they did this was really, really cool. Now, this is the problem, culprit, and solution that they used. Their problem was their muscle gain plateaus. Because when you're working out for a while, you'll get into this plateau where you can't seem to gain any more new muscle. And a lot of people have that clear problem, right? They experience that problem. And the culprit that they called out was just this repetitive workout plans. What happens is your muscles are used to the same workout plan, so they don't grow. So it's repetitive. That's the culprit that they called out. The solution was, again, very, very brilliant. Basically, they said this: if you constantly change up how you work out in your workout plan, then you'll cause what they would call muscle confusion that will actually allow you to break past any plateaus that you have and start really building muscle. Again, very simple, but very profound. And it called out clear, had a clear problem, clear culprit, and a clear solution that people could relate with and that set them apart in the marketplace. But that positioning made P90X one of the best selling workout programs ever created. And it's time that you need to do the same thing. Again, for Pepsodent, how did they do it? Let's look at what they did. Again, simple solution. The problem, the yellow teeth, gum disease, retting teeth. Their culprit was the film on the teeth. They called out the film. And their solution was simple. It was to brush your teeth daily with Pepsodent. Very simple solution. But back in the 1920s, this was kind of a revolutionary idea. Because back then, people didn't brush their teeth every day. That's why they had the film on their teeth. But then they showed how the film on their teeth is this build-up stuff that's causing all these problems. And because it's this gunk that turns your teeth yellow, and then it can soak into your gums, cause gum disease, and cause your teeth to rot. So if you want to avoid that, then you have to brush your teeth every day with Pepsodent. Because Pepsodent has this specific ingredient that will take care of all the stuff that needs to take care of for your teeth to keep them clean and sparkling and keep gunk from going into your gums, and therefore you can have good teeth for years. Clear, simple, very simple positioning that worked really, really, really well. That makes sense? Brush your teeth daily. Again, 1920s, that was a new concept. So it was something fresh, something new that people brought to the marketplace. So you want to take time to think through this and identify what's a simple way you can present this. What I like doing is I like brainstorming all the different ones, because we know that when we figure out our positioning, the right problem, the right culprit to call out, and the right solution, and we keep it simple and straightforward, that it's going to be simple to sell it to a cold audience. But when you hit it right in the marketplace, this is where people come up with multi-million dollar ideas, because they hit the right problem, the right culprit, and the right solution at the right time in the marketplace. So if you want a multi-million dollar idea that's going to sell like hotcakes and not just going to sell when you initially launch it, then you have to do this. And you get to have some fun with it. Yes, sometimes it's hard to come up with this stuff. Like, I'll be honest. But when you sit down and you look at kind of what the marketplace is already doing, and this is what I would do, is I'll sit down and I'll look at, okay, what's the marketplace as a whole? What are the problems, the culprits, and the solutions that some of the biggest sellers in the marketplace are using? And why is it working? But I'll sit down and brainstorm these. Then I'll think through, okay, what's my process of helping people? And this is the thing, you have to intimately know your process to figure out how can you, okay, in that process, what's something new, what's something fresh that I can deliver to people? Now, I base my whole business off of what I would call strategic goodness, which is this idea of leading with goodness to change the way that people think and doing it strategically so that you can sell more. And it creates a great customer journey that's relational, that you can sell more. It's a new idea. It's a new concept. It's like, oh yeah, that makes a lot more sense than all the manipulation stuff that I see other people do. And so it's a simple positioning that works really well when I describe it well. So you want to think through those things. And it might take a while for you to come up with the perfect one for your course and the offer that you have. But when you take time to think through and brainstorm 5 to 10 different ones, again, think about the problem, culprit, solution, and brainstorm a couple ones for each one, then pick one. Here's the beauty of it. It doesn't need to be perfect right now. It's not written in stone. And you can try each of these different ones in different ads to see which one clicks the most. And then you can base your customer journey and everything that you're doing based off of those principles. But when you find it, it's going to click and it's going to change your marketing and then probably change your life, because you're going to have a very profitable offer simply because you created the right positioning in the marketplace. And that's, again, a simple way to do it. But ultimately, you got to pick one. You got to get clear on this stuff. Get clear on that problem. Again, problem, get clear on it. Get clear on the culprit and get clear on the solution. And when you do that, your marketplace, like essentially your life, your business, your sales will completely drastically change. When you hit this right, it will change like crazy. And sometimes it takes some ideas and it takes some messing up and stuff that doesn't work to come up with the right one. But I challenge you to go out and come up with a couple of these and share it with me. Put it in the comments or email me, whatever you need to do, but share it with me, because I'd like to know and I'd like to help you do this. Now, one thing I'm doing right now is I'm in the process of planning out and dreaming with this, but I'm creating what I'm going to call Spirit-Led Creator Collaboration. May not be collaboration, might be mastermind. I'm trying to figure out the right naming for that. how I want to word that. We'll see once. But I'm creating this. But in this program, we're going to work with people to help them identify what their problem is, what their culprit is, what their solution is, so they can present themselves to the marketplace in a very clear and powerful way. So if you want to be part of that, if you are interested in that at all, then go sign up. We're right now in the idea phase. As I'm making this video, by the time you watch this, we might already be launched. But we're in the idea phase, and I'm creating a priority list just to see who's interested. If you're interested in this, you want to be part of it, then go to strategicgoodness.com/priority. Go there, check it out, sign up, let me know that you're interested, or you can also link in the description. And if you like this kind of video and this was helpful, then please like, subscribe, and share it with other people that may need it, that will find it insightful and helpful for their business. Because ultimately, I believe if you do this, you will have a multi-million-dollar idea that can truly change people's lives. When you have the heart to serve people and actually bring transformation to people, then you need to present it right, the same way that Jesus did. And if we present it right in the marketplace, then people will pay attention and we can actually transform their lives. So go do that. I look forward to seeing the ideas that you come up with, because this can literally change your life and the life of the people that you're serving. Cool. I'm excited for you. Go out, go kill it, go make something transformational.